Love it or hate it, instrumental music is undergoing a thrilling transformation. Artists are blending past innovations with more popular mainstream elements. And this fusion is pushing the genre into relatively unfamiliar waters. The bar for guitar music has never been higher, not just in terms of the jaw-dropping skill of today's average guitarist, but in terms of production quality as well.
That's fire!
Musical trends are never stagnant for long, so this evolution is to be expected. But what if I told you instrumental guitar music is no longer just about the guitar?
Not to say it is.
The essence of this style is slowly evolving beyond the guitar itself, with an unforeseen trend that is opening up this once niche genre to entirely new audiences. Throughout the past decade, instrumental music has become less and less instrumental, with vocals making an increasingly prominent appearance. Bands and artists like David Maximykic and Polyphia, who were once firmly rooted in the instrumental realm, have begun embracing vocals, either as collaborative features or pulling them from their own artistic arsenal. While this shift hasn't been adopted by every guitarist, it's undeniably becoming a defining trend within the broader scope of guitar music's transformation. And I don't think artists are enacting this change strictly for the sake of filling lyrics across their instrumentation. For many, I believe this evolution represents a valuable addition to their musical repertoire, as it is unlocking new dimensions of artistic creativity. The causation for this transition likely stems from various factors, but I've recognized two key motivations that stand out. The first is the added layer of vocal lyricism, which plays a critical role in expanding the boundaries of artistic expression. As I mentioned, the bar for what's considered average as a guitarist on the internet has risen steeply. So the baseline for guitar proficiency necessary to spark that awe factor is only becoming increasingly difficult to achieve. This is especially crucial given your 5-second window to hook viewers in an age of shrinking attention spans. Sure, we could all try to outdo each other playing faster, more intricate pieces, but we're aware those gains would be short-lived, offering little to no creative advancement, both in terms of an artist's career and their musical progression. All that cycle does is introduce a perpetual complexity ladder that optimizes for keeping viewers engaged in the moment, not creating music they may want to play repeatedly. If you're like me and listen to a fair amount of instrumental music, you've likely developed an ear for the subtle yet meaningful characteristics that distinguish one guitarist or track from another. The problem is, if you don't have that ability, then most instrumental music is likely to blend together, with the possibility of it sounding like it could all be played by the same artist. In an internet climate where originality far outweighs objective skill, you are going to fall short if your music is seen as just another flower in the garden. To stand out, it needs to be a bouquet of unique originality with as much variance in its arrangement as possible. And the thing is, adding vocals immediately elevates your music's distinctiveness, making it a powerful tool in both your music and in terms of audience expansion. This, I believe, is the key contributor for this overall change in the meta. Whether used intentionally as a divisive strategy or solely to experiment, vocals can have a massive impact in helping artists solidify a sense of novelty in their musical identity. Alright, I love a good illustrative metaphor, so imagine this. You have 3 guitarists in a room who all play variations of rock music. All 3 of these guitarists are playing the same guitar model, using the same modular effects, and routing through the same amplifier. In this case, individual expression is greatly restricted, and the only factor left to express contrast would simply be how each guitarist plays. And this includes scale preference, technique, note articulation, all the way down to finger tone. Regardless of how versed you are in guitar sounds, these performances are likely to sound very similar. How similar is going to depend on the listener, but there just isn't much room here for individuality. Now in scenario 2, each guitarist is allowed to play their guitar of choice, create their own effects chain, and pair it with their preferred amplifier. This scenario is a huge step up. It opens the door to nearly infinite permutations, allowing each guitarist to fully express their sound in the way that suits their personal style. In this scenario, the space for creative expression is significantly greater. If our guitarists are creative in their guitar playing, tone sculpting, and production, then there are plenty of ways for them to stand out. But even here, a gap remains where a larger amount of originality can be achieved. In our last scenario, on top of the freedom they already have with sound and production, imagine we ask the guitarist to in some way incorporate vocals into their music. Regardless of whether you're familiar with their specific sound of music, I can promise you anyone would be able to distinguish each guitarist's sound. Now, why is this the case? Because adding vocals introduces another component for them to expand and express their artistic creativity. And it's not just about singing. One of our guitarists might include their voice as a sample, another could add a few lines of meaningful lyrics to drive a narrative, and the third may choose to reinvent their music entirely, building a full verse and chorus. The key difference here is just that vocals open up even more space for originality, giving artists a leg up when it comes to how they want to express their own sound. This is essentially the course that guitar music has been following as the barrier to entry to create professional grade music from your bedroom continues to lower. Before diving into the second point, I want to clarify that I am not a door-to-door sales advocate for vocalizing all instrumental music, nor am I suggesting that this is a brand new phenomenon. However, in today's musical landscape, the frequency of this occurrence continues to rise, and it's become a trend that has impacts that are just impossible to overlook. In an increasingly competitive music industry where the real challenge isn't just standing out amongst other artists, but capturing fleeting attention simultaneously, the inclusion of vocals often increases mass audience appeal. Now, this doesn't really come as a surprise, given that the majority of music listeners tend to gravitate towards songs that do have vocals, so incorporating them sparingly or within just a few tracks can greatly enhance your ability to connect with a broader audience. For some contextual examples, Jimi Hendrix is widely regarded as one of the most unique guitarists of the 60s. Although he is celebrated for his guitar innovations, I'd argue his vocal contributions played a major role in cementing his identity. Now, I've yet to hear anyone advertise Hendrix as one of the greatest singers of his decade, but his decision to sing on top of his guitar playing certainly broadened his appeal beyond just the guitar enthusiast. When you add up being a black rock artist in the 60s, a left-handed guitar player who utilized unconventional techniques, that also sang, you'd have to literally be blind to miss him. And this level of distinctiveness would make it virtually impossible for anyone to mistake him for someone else. John Mayer is another example that comes to mind. Though I grew up viewing him primarily as a guitarist, for most people he's known just as, if not more, for his incredible vocal abilities. Mayer's success in both worlds, including guitar technicality and powerful singing, illustrates the benefit of straddling two separate music pools, because this is what allowed him to meaningfully resonate across listeners from different audiences. As some recent examples in the modern guitar realm, Polyphia went from purely creating instrumental music to composing their most recent album, Remember That You Will Die, with nearly half of the tracks featuring vocal collaborations from both singers and rappers. Similarly, Marston's latest album, Dragon and Harmony, which featured prominent pop collaborations, showed the benefits of expanding into different musical territories. And there are loads of examples like this that can be found across progressive guitarists and instrumentalists in general. Now, this video isn't to convince those who do more instrumental work that they need to start singing to have a career, but I want to highlight that even small vocal implementations in your music can lead to exponential results, especially as more artists who were once solely instrumental are continuing to embrace this shift. As with most natural progressions, there will always be the emergence of a natural equilibrium that defines a universal ideal balance. With business corporations, for example, regardless of how they start up, many end up slowly transitioning into cautionary, risk-averse strategy methods, both to stabilize earnings and satisfy shareholders. And music is no different. Many successful artists across virtually every genre enact some shift that pivots their audience from a niche cohort to a broader style in order to appeal to a larger demographic. What's fascinating about this overall change is that in no way do I feel like it will take away from this newly developed, more modern style of guitar playing. If anything, I believe it'll make these progressive styles more accessible to listeners who may not be accustomed to the complexities that come with a lot of guitar music, especially since guitarists aren't dumbing down their craft in favor of these vocals. This shift could quite possibly spark a renaissance for guitar music, since vocals provide a cleaner entry point for new listeners. And the effects of this change could be even more pronounced as the popularity of independent artists continues to rise. That's all I got for this. I hope you guys enjoy. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about vocals in instrumental music, and if you think it'll be beneficial to the the overall genre. If you want to dive deeper in my thoughts on the culture of instrumental guitar music, then I really think you'll enjoy this video, so check that out. But as always, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.